Good morning. Testing, testing. Good morning. Testing, testing. Hello there, Richard. Thanks for coming, and congrats for being first to the chat. Probably first to view the stream this morning, too. Not that it's a race or anything. We are painting some minis, and I'm just about ready to lower the screen. Reveal the screen, I should say. There we go. Hell yeah, is right. Let's pull out, well, this is the reference mini that is painted. A Mercenary Crossbow. And we got 3 kind of half-painted ones here. So this felt like, or the current batch of 100 Kingdoms minis I've been working on this week. It's 4 men-at-arms, 3 rangers, and 3 crossbows. So felt appropriate for the last stream that I do this week, or it'll probably be the last stream I do this week. Do a Mercenary Crossbows so that we get all 3 for variety. All 3 unit types, I should say. Yeah, you own that attendance there. Be proud. I did pre-paint their faces because I didn't want to do it on stream. Let's see how I did. I did that last night. This guy's face turned out okay. And this guy, he's got a mask, so didn't really paint his face. And then we got this guy's face. This guy, when you look at him straight on, he's a little he's a little cross-eyed, but in an entire unit of guys, there's always going to be some cross-eyed ones, trust me. You know, you just put them in the second rows. How's everyone doing this fine Thursday morning? I usually look forward to Thursdays because Thursday evenings are conquest nights at my local game store. Okay, I think what we're gonna do first is finish off the various leathers. So for that we'll need dark flesh tone, burnt umber, and black. And that should be it. We'll need some other cloth colors, but I'll grab those after. Well, actually, let's grab at least the the pale sand, because I do need to paint the... Did I use pale sand or khaki? That kind of looks like khaki for the kind of face cowls. Let's start with that, because that has some kind of annoying nooks and crannies to get into that are bound to lead to some oopsies. The high heels of the Roland Zulu fall off sometimes. Well, that's not good. The high heels are like the best part of that design. That's my totally objective opinion. As you can see, we're still salvaging the last dregs of paint from this khaki. That's the spirit, Richard. Okay, let's grab need a somewhat small brush because I don't want to accidentally get paint onto the faces I meticulously painted last night. Now this guy kind of looks like he's wearing a metal mask. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna... I don't think I want to paint it metal. I might paint it like a darker leather color. So it doesn't look like it's quite supposed to be the cloth color. But this cloth color we can still go around the side to match the others. For the part that's like not directly on his face. So you can probably see what I mean now about the nooks and crannies. That's why I'm painting this part first. Yeah, I've seen Gundam Unicorn, Richard, I know. It's the obligatory purple-haired sidekick that the Xeon team usually has. The sidekick to the Char clone, that is. Unicorn has one of the silliest char clones. And most of that's due to the fact his name is Full Frontal. I would say more, but I guess I shouldn't spoil the show for anyone who hasn't seen it. If you enjoy the Gundam franchise enough, you'll enjoy Unicorn. But it's definitely one where you should probably watch the original series first. Perfectibility Unicorn Gundam is your personal favorite. Is that the one with the blue? Like it's the same white frame as usual, but it does have the blue underneath instead of the red. My favorite unicorn is the Banshee Norn. Is that heresy to say? Because it's not really a unicorn. To me, it's like they're both kind of unicorns. Like they're essentially the same body. They just got a different head and some different weapons. And color, of course. I don't often feel that compelled to comment on the colors of Gundams because I'm always in the mindset of like, well, painting is always an option if you don't like the colors. The design of the body, on the other hand, that you can change as well with more effort. Not that painting is low effort. Because it's not. This is a tricky area to get to with that crossbow right near his face. Alright, any other areas that could use the khaki? Oh, I guess we could do the arrows at the back. And the trimming. Looks like I used pale sand for that. I'll do the crossbow bolts, or the quarrels, with that darker color, and then we'll go back over it with pale sand later with a mini dry brush. They are the same model, the RX-0. Alright, good to know. I still haven't seen the kind of sequel OVA for Unicorn called Narrative. The one where the gold Banshee shows up. I guess like by the time I finished Gundam Unicorn, I was like ready to move on. It was like an okay show, but not my favorite Gundam show. I didn't enjoy it as much as Iron-Blooded Orphans. I think, trying to think. Out of all the Gundam shows I've finished, Unicorn might be near the bottom. So Unicorn is probably, in terms of just like objective reviewing of it as a show, it's better than Gundam Wing. Yeah, the Phoenix. Or Phoenix. The Golden Boy. Okay, I think I will do Burnt Umber next. It looks like there's still some on the palette I can use, actually. Oh yeah, still plenty on there. Yeah, what I've been enjoying about painting my 100 Kingdoms over painting the spires is like there's more variation in the outfits between like all the humans. Like they all have similar outfits, but a lot of these crossbowmen, they'll have like different kinds of jerkins and pants across the unit, so I'm not worried as much about consistency as I would be with the spires. Because the spires, like I'm really shooting for a consistent look across them all. And the 100 Kingdoms, I want them to be consistent, but also like when you pick them up individually, they might have like inconsistencies in like where the different browns get applied. And also like my paint scheme has different colors depending on the type of unit. Like light units get the green like these have, medium units get the blue like the men-at-arms have. And it's just nice to have two different vibes across the two armies I have. And you know, different play styles as well. You know what they say, variety is the spice of life, etc. After this batch of crossbows is done, there'll be 4 more just regular there'll be 6 more regular crossbows and then a standard bear and leader model. Which is the same deal for the rangers. Where was I going with that? Same deal for the rangers, and then the men-at-arms, we just have 2 left, plus we've got 1 regular left, the 1 standard, 1 leader, and then 1 seasoned veteran officer. So like all the command models for all 3 of these units, I'm planning, I'll either be painting them on stream or like recording B-roll of them for video. But the remaining like just grunts of the unit probably just get painted off camera because I can be a little faster that way. And it would be a little redundant just streaming even more of them after the streaming done this week. The perfectibility unicorn. Yes, that's the one armed to the teeth. The one that needs its own, like, hanger action-based stand just to store everything. It's nice. I like it when you can display a Gundam kit that has a lot of weapons, but, like, it has a way to be displayed where all the weapons can also be there with it, whether it's, like, holding them all, bristling like a porcupine, or, like, in its own special hanger base with spots to hang up all the weapons after a long day of work. After a long day of fighting Neo Zeon. Or whatever. I don't know if they're still fighting Neo Zeon by the time the perfectibility unicorn shows up in the show. I think the perfectibility unicorn is one that comes in with the narrative film that I haven't seen. The ones I was calling the Aragorn minis are the Rangers, yeah. Because, you know, they're like Striders. I'm thinking of the full armor unicorn. You're right, you're right. Yeah, the crossbows and the rangers are two separate units, but they're both light ranged units for my army, so that's why they're both getting green. Right, that's the last spot we need this color. Over on the hands. Between the Mercenary Crossbows and the Imperial Rangers, you can really see the difference between, like, the first generation of Conquest minis and the stuff that's come out in the last couple years. It's way easier to pick out the detail on the sculpts with the Rangers than it is the crossbows. So what's kind of funny about playing, less so the Spires, but in more the 100 Kingdoms, but when you're playing the, like, one of the original 4 factions in Conquest, a lot of your, like, good, like, reliable quality units were from the first generation of sculpts, but a lot of your, like, newer release units are also good, so your armies become a nice charming mix of old and new models. Alright, now this kneeling down one has a bit of a different outfit. So we're gonna have to make some more decisions about where the brown goes. Well, it looks like our camera's a bit laggy. Miguel, the Rangers and the Crossbows are both from the 100 Kingdoms faction. They're the human faction, so they have, like, a decent amount of visual variety between the units, you know, other than them all just being humans. You can have some pretty strong, you know, infantry-focused builds, but they're also the go-to faction if you want to go hard on the horsies. Just have cavalry-focused armies. I'm trying to figure out exactly where to put color on this one's a bit more of a puzzle. Alright, good luck on Warframe. I hope you do badass Space Ninja stuff. That's about all I know about Warframe. Try not to do too many microtransactions. I don't know if the game actually has those, I'm also just assuming there. Let's paint this part brown. These models only have a defense stat of 1, so I don't want to paint too many metallics on them. Because that would be a lie. They die too easily to be that armored. Okay, I'm not gonna paint that part brown. I thought about, but I think we'll paint it a different shade of brown. That's what we'll do. I think I missed a spot on this last one. Yeah, I need to do this horizontal strap here. Yeah, this guy's setup is a bit different. Yeah, well, I do think we need to add some more paint to the palette first. Alright, that's 2 cups of coffee chugged for this Thursday morning. We'll have a third probably, but probably not during the stream. Because ideally we don't want the coffee poop to kick in the middle of the stream, you know what I'm saying? I think, do I paint the collar the brown color? That's a tough choice. Well, I'll paint the belt while I think about it. Yeah, I think we'll go with the burnt umber for this section of the armor, and then the other sections will go for the more mahogany type of brown. Where's the connection point? Okay, what this guy's pose makes painting these inner parts a little tricky. But it's a very typical thing you gotta do with miniature painting. I mean, you can avoid having to paint into nooks and crannies like this by painting in sub-assemblies, but it's not the general practice when you're painting a unit of infantry. Unless, like, they got big shields, a lot of people will paint the shields separately. Okay, burnt umber's done on that one. On to the last one. And this one also has a different outfit. This guy's got fancy armored shoes, actually. And a different, I don't know if you call it a jerkin, perhaps? A leather hauberk. If this was D&D, it would be like... It would probably have the same armor class as, like, studded leather armor, perhaps? Speaking of leather armor, my main playthrough character in Baldur's Gate 3, I haven't played it in a few days, but the most recent time I did play it, I had made it to the last light inn, and I bought myself some fancy leather armor that doesn't have a dexterity bonus limit like the usual stuff. So I gave that to my hand crossbow machine gun murder bard character. Yeah, the 100 Kingdoms are also a good example of, if you're painting miniatures, doesn't even necessarily matter if it's science fiction or fantasy. It's like you can often make use of having a lot of different brown paints in your collection. Yeah, you can barely see this guy's belt, but I'm gonna paint it anyways. Yeah, obviously not so much with the gunpla I've painted, but with all the minis I've painted across my entire experience, there's always been plenty of uses for different shades of brown. Because, you know, lots of minis just have a variety of straps and belts and pouches. And you can also use the browns for like skin, hair, fur, basing stuff. Okay, we just need... Okay, don't think we'll do that. Those areas, the other brown, actually. What do we paint this color, though? Maybe, yeah, just like this little rectangle on the back here. We can create a bit of color separation. And again, I'm not too worried about like replicating the exact same color blocking on every single model in this unit. They'll still look homogeneous enough if I like stick to the same set of browns. Okay, I think we should do the black next. I think Stretch, I think that's the most logical choice. I believe I highlighted this guy's boots with like a mix of the black. Also, I need to try and just quickly scrub off some of the bad or the excessive top coat I put on this guy. You probably notice it looks a bit dusty. Sometimes you can kind of scrub that look away. Obviously when you get it wet, the like dusty look goes away, but sometimes when it dries it kind of comes back. Sometimes you can, or I have had success in the past with scrubbing away bad top coat. Alright, anyways. So, believe it's just, we got the base coat, the boots in black, and the crossbow in black, and that, oh, and the dagger sheath. I think that's all that needs, like a base coat in black. Yeah, these guys are definitely not wearing adequate footwear for the battlefield. It looks like they're just like basic cloth shoes. They probably need, I mean, if I was going onto a battlefield, I definitely want some steel-toed boots, you know? I don't think they had those back in the Middle Ages. Ye old workplace approved steel-toe boots. Or perhaps it'd be iron-toed boots back then. This guy's crossbow is already mostly base coated. Very good. Oh, we did forget to do his dagger though. Just needs a bit of a touch up. And for those of you who've been paying attention to my conquest projects, the retinue kit bash I made of the dude who's wielding a crossbow. It's like a men-at-arms body with a household guard head and a crossbow from the hunter cadre. That, I mean, technically it's a kit bash for a retinue model for the Imperial officer, but most of the time I'm actually using it just as a proxy for an Imperial officer. Because in a lot of my army lists, I've been bringing the Imperial officer onto the board in a unit of crossbows and upgrading him with... There's an heirloom you can give your warlords in 100 Kingdoms called the Kiss Farewell, which is essentially a crossbow. Or it's like a ranged weapon that's implied to be a crossbow. Or might just be explicitly stated to be a crossbow. But so I use that retinue model to represent the Imperial officer when he's coming in with the crossbows, because he also has a crossbow and it just feels right. that particular combination has come in quite clutch in a few games. Most of the lists I build, it's hard for me to, or like, it's hard for me to not just like default to using the Imperial Officer with the crossbows, because it's just like a good value combo. The only other viable option I think of with my collection most of the time is bringing him in with men-at-arms. And not taking the seasoned veteran upgrade. That's one of the parts about conquest list building I enjoy a lot, is kitting out your various characters to different battlefield roles. And just, I mean, I'm one of those wargamers that enjoys the army list building stage a lot, and will just spend lots of time making lists just for fun, even if I never play them. I don't know if you call that theory crafting or what. List jitsu. I don't know if the lists are any good. A lot of the time I fall into the trap of like, well, I want my army to use all the retinue models because I like the kit bashes I made or the painting I did, and I just want to have all them on the table, even though that's like not the most optimal choice, like list building strategy wise. A lot of the time I make compromises based purely off of flavor or how I want the army to just look visually. Like, yeah, it makes more sense to take certain ranged, or to save a bit of points and not have a standard bearer with certain ranged units. But it's like, I haven't bought a second unit. Or like, I'll, if it's the first time I'm buying a unit, I'll assemble them with the standard bearer, because I don't know, the unit kind of feels empty without it. But then, like, if I only have the one unit and I want to build a list, save points not taking the standard bearer, like, I don't have a regular model to replace it. And it's like, well, I don't want to field the unit and be like, well, there's a standard bearer in the unit, but my list doesn't actually have the standard bearer. I have no problems with other people doing that, but when it comes to my army, I'm like, no, I want it to, like, I want the army list to, like, match what it is visually on the table. I'm trying to remember what highlighting I did. It doesn't look like I did much highlighting on the black crossbows, if any, so maybe I just won't. Since there's just regular grunts in the unit, I think I can justify skipping some of the edge highlighting. The most important part is just to get the unit finished. By the time I'm painting both of these armies, I'm probably not not gonna want to paint any kind of unit for a while. I'm gonna want to just do a bunch of projects that are like larger one-off models. Like a Gundam, perhaps. Ah yes, this is the guy who's got fancy armor plates on his shoes. I think we'll end up painting it silver. So we didn't get full coverage during the airbrush stage. It looks like. We'll save the metallics for after all the non-metallic base coats are done. And after this, we'll use the black that's still on the palette and combine it with the burnt umber that's still on the palette for, I guess, the black highlight on the boots. And then we also got to use some of that black to combine it with the dark flesh tone that's there. Turn the wet palette so you can kind of see what I'm mixing. I feel like I need just a bit more black there. We almost had some paint spill into the sponge there. Got to carefully wipe that up. Alright. I think for now we're just gonna do the boots with this. And that's just a real basic highlight, because these are gonna just look like some raggedy old boots. Maybe not even boots, just shoes. There is a little string on the side there that I will add some pale sand to eventually. One set of booties. I see a lot of people walking their dogs out in their booties right now where I live because it's winter time. Gotta protect those little paws from the salt and the cold. But you know, it takes a certain kind of dog to be able to walk in the boots and like just, you know how to walk. Because I'm sure we've all seen that those funny moments when you put the boots on the dog and they just don't know how their legs work anymore. My mom's last dog, he just wouldn't walk if you put the boots on him. He was a very lazy pug, though. It's on brand for him. The audio might just be a bit low. I could turn it up a little. Check, check. There used to be, or the streams I did last year, I did have background music, but I'm seeing how the streams are going without background music right now, so that also might be what you're noticing. But my stream could also just be a little on the quiet side, or my mic, I mean. Maybe I have the mic a bit on the quieter side because I don't want to like totally blast everyone's ears when I burp. This is a coffee drinking stream though, so I haven't really had any burps. Tragic, I know. Okay, time to switch to some dark flesh tone. Coming up on 1 hour of the stream. Now I can leave the palette like this. So we'll do just the straight up dark flesh tone first. Actually, let's use this part of the palette. And then we'll mix in some black for the trim sections. And probably gonna switch to a smaller brush. Which one though? Let's give this one a shot. This one's not necessarily a smaller brush. Actually, that's the wrong choice, I've decided. That one was like, it's smaller, but it's got better tip. But this one, the tip is mediocre, but the brush itself is smaller. So I think it'll suit our needs here. Now this particular one I'm painting, I'm pretty sure I used this dark flesh tone as the base for his skin, but I made sure to put on a separate brown wash that doesn't get used on the armor, just to like make sure the skin tone is a bit more distinct from the outfit. As you probably heard me say before, I kind of just wing it when it comes to painting the human skin, and with my 100 Kingdoms army, I don't go for like a homogeneous skin tone. I like the vibe for my army where like the soldiers came from a bunch of different places. And you know, with these crossbows specifically, they're called the Mercenary Crossbowmen, so I think it would make lore sense if the individual members of the unit came from all across the land. And with my human armies in the past, I've like, I mean, maybe my first one, like my Empire army for Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, I didn't do that because that was more just like one of my first armies. But with my Signar army and War Machine, I tried to paint a bunch of different skin tones. Maybe like the majority of them were some flavor of Caucasian, but I made sure to add some different ones here and there. And you know, when you're collecting Signar in War Machine, kind of has a similar like ragtag band of mercenaries vibe. I mean, you can also just like play the mercenary factions, which I did, but then, you know, like you can use those mercenary models in your Signar army. Remember in Mark II War Machine, Signar was sometimes colloquially known as Mercnar. There's a really powerful list using Haley 2, or the Warcaster Haley 2, and then most of the rest of the list was mercenaries. Apparently there'll be a mercenaries faction for Conquest at some point. I have one of the preview models that came from the organized play kits last year that's like a paymaster type model for the Dogs of War faction. That's probably like 3 or 4 years away. But it's a pretty nice model. I'm using it as a, you know, naturally I'm using it as a retinue model. It fits in pretty well with the 100 Kingdoms, because, you know, it's just another human. I suppose he looks like a bit more distinctly like a mercenary because he's holding a sack that, you know, is probably full of money or something, and he's got one foot up on a chest. But I'd say he fits in, especially like when I paint him in the matching army colors, he'll fit in well enough. So then with that addition of that model, and then I had one Steel Legion body left over that I combined with some extra mounted squire parts and men-at-arms parts to make one more kit bash. So I believe the number of kit bashes in my 100 Kingdoms army, or the number of like retinue models, I should say, is up to 11. And I only need 9 for retinue models if I want my like 3 on foot lords to have max retinue. So I've designated 2 of the kit bashes to be secondary officers, because I have 2 usually I'm only fielding 1, but I do have 2 units of men-at-arms technically, and 2 units of Steel Legion. And so now with these new designated officer proxies, I can have 2 units of Steel Legion and 2 units of men-at-arms with officers. One of the next things my army needs is I need another... Well, I don't need. I want to get another mounted noble lord. Which, if you saw my army on the table, may be a bit surprised about, because I have 2 already, but my fancy business is the main noble lord that I use as the actual character model is I kit bashed it to be holding one of the great swords that the Steel Legion have. So that's the one I've painted up to be the mounted noble lord. Actually, it's right over there. I'll just grab it. Mounted noble lord kit bash. The main color I use for the characters for my conquest army is red. You know, light units get green, medium units get blue, heavy units get purple, and then the main color for the characters is red, and you know I mix some purple in because purple and red just looks really good. So where was I going? So I have another mounted noble lord character that I kind of built just straight out of the box as intended. It has a shield and a lance, and that's the one I'm painting it up to be the officer for the household knights unit called the tourney champion. Just because if it's a tourney champion, I think it deserves to have like a slightly beefier horse and beefier armor because it looks cool. But I have 2 units of household knights, so I'd like to get a second noble lord model, so the second unit of knights can also have an officer. Even though it's like not something I would field, or there aren't too many lists I would play that would need 2 tourney champions, but one day there might be, and it would be nice to have. It would look a little weird if like both units had tourney champions, but one tourney champion is just like a lot more of an impressive model than the other one. That's a pretty long-term down the line purchase though. I would need to decide whether, because I also want to get some units of militia eventually, because they're like a pretty good chaff unit. And of course their leader model has a floppy hat and with a fancy sword, so I'm a sucker for that. Also, the officer upgrade they have is a really nice model. The what's it called? The Errant to the Order of the Shield, I believe. I don't know what color of leather I want to paint these sections. We might have to do... Might have to go back to the burnt umber, actually. I think we need just a tiny bit of burnt umber there. And this dark flesh tone color from the new Vallejo game color range has been quite useful for my 100 Kingdoms army. It's not a type of brown I've used that often before this, but I found many uses for it with my 100 Kingdoms. And I think that's mostly because the 100 Kingdoms have a lot of different elements that call for, or like there's a lot, you can just make use of a lot of different browns with the 100 Kingdoms. This entire stream, or a lot of the recent streams can just be summed up as like, guys, look at all the different browns I'm painting. Browns are so useful. Alright, I think we got that one done. If these other two had theirs... Okay, yeah, this one, dark flesh tone is done, so only I got one left for the straight up dark flesh tone, and then we're going to mix some black into it for some of the trim sections, which were kind of started on this guy here. And I'll probably use the darkened dark flesh tone color to paint the face mask on this guy. It's either that or I just use metal, some kind of metal color. It's a good question. And then if I do metal, I gotta decide whether to do silver or bronze. Well, this is the color, the gold looking color for my 100 Kingdoms is technically Vallejo model color bronze, but it looks a lot more like a gold than a bronze, if you ask me. It's still a nice color either way. Obviously, I enjoyed enough to like have it be the main armor color for my entire army. All right. Time for some black. Viewers have been a little low on this stream. Might wrap things up closer to 90 minutes than 2 hours. It's probably a number of factors for that. I have done... This is probably the week that I've done the most streams ever. This is my... I think this is my 4th stream this week, which I don't usually do, and it's all been miniatures. So it's probably a handful of my subscribers that are just kind of waiting for me to do another Gunpla thing, which is understandable. I mean, I can't deny it's not frustrating, but that's like understandable in terms of how YouTube works. I've been saying during my streams this week, I'm trying to change up the format a bit this year and just do a lot more casual streams. But I'll have to take some time over the weekend to kind of see how all these did, or like look at the analytics or whatever, and look at my schedule and what I got coming. Figure out what the best strategy moving forward is. But you know me, usually the strategy I pick is like objectively the wrong one. If you're looking at things with like the proper YouTuber practice, I've failed that many times before. My channel could potentially be in the hundreds of thousands of subscribers if I had like just stuck to only doing hand painted Gunpla. But I just can't bring myself to do the same kind of video over and over again, especially those hand-painted Gunpla videos can take a lot out of me. Then you get hit with the awkward double-edged sword. It's like, well, I'm burning out, so I need to like take some time off and be kinder to myself. It's like, oh, well, that harms me financially and adds more stress. It's like, well, it'd be less stressful if I could hire an editor, but I've taken time off because it was too stressful, and now I don't have money to hire an editor. Such are the dilemmas of the niche hobby content creator. Hence why the format needs to change up in some way this year. Don't know how yet, but it needs to change somehow. How did I paint the sleeves on this guy? We'll start by painting this guy's face mask brown, and if I don't like it, I can always go over it again later. And the gray sections you can see on the mini here that's just like the foundation for the white that's gonna go on there. Because the two colors I gotta make sure every model in the army has, at least to some extent, is white and the bronze. That's like a consistent thing for the army that everyone's gotta have. With white being like the accent color, so it has like the least surface area for most of the models. You know, that's just me obviously being like, well, white is harder to paint, so we'll paint white will be the least painted color. What a great view of the bottom of the painting handle. That's some engaging stream content right there, am I right? Alright, trim on this guy's done. Leather trim, I should say. I think we need a tiny bit more black. Just a little drop. Yeah, back to what I was talking about earlier, like a fair bit earlier, about good value units to bring in your 100 Kingdoms army lists. Mercenary Crossbows is definitely one of them. They're one of the like best value units in the game, but they're one of the like earlier generation or first generation sculpts. So it's like, yeah, I should probably buy another unit of these for my army because it'll be very, very useful for a lot of different lists, but it's like, I'd rather buy a unit with some more modern sculpts. that sums up the flaws in my list building approaches. I've never really considered myself a super competitive gamer, though, so it's fine in my eyes. You can see how this brush doesn't have a great tip, but I'm still able to get decently straight lines just by carefully only using the edge of the brush, sort of. Alright. Last one to do this brown trim on. Hello, Barrett. I'm glad you enjoy my videos. Thank you very much. I will keep up the work. I feel like I've only got... No, we'll see. Once I'm done painting this dark brown color, we might wrap up this here stream. We'll see. Like, because we're almost at the hour-and-a-half mark, and, you know, feel like the coffee poop might show up soon. Sorry for the bathroom talk. But, like, if I'm gonna have to get up to do that, might be a good call to just wrap up this stream for today. We put in a solid, we've done at least 8 hours of streaming this week, I think. Next stream will probably be some sort of casual gunplay stream. Just for a bit of a break before I eventually get back to the 100 Kingdoms. Okay, don't think I need to do any more trim on that guy. You're welcome, Ghetto Jet Racing. Okay, well, I'm gonna do just a bit more painting. We'll add the first layer of white. And probably just tidy up the green. Could do a quick dab of red for the handles. I believe that's what yeah. Yeah, so maybe expect perhaps another 10 minutes of painting or so. And then by then I'll probably need to head to the bathroom. Just a little accent of red onto the palette. Only red on these models just for the handles of these daggers. Pretty big daggers though. But not quite big enough to be a short sword. In my opinion. And hopefully after, well, this whole batch 100 Kingdoms minis that I've been working on this week, specifically with the Rangers and Crossbows, is like my first time painting a lot of these sculpts, so the first ones always take a bit longer because you gotta figure out where you want to block the colors and all that. So ideally the rest of the unit goes faster, with the exception of the command models, because those ones are a bit unique. Like the command crossbow guy is like a telescope, and then, you know, they both have flags. But at least blocking out the colors on the bodies will be faster. What was I saying? We'll do white. Let's touch up the green, and then we'll do the white. Get out ye old goblin green. It's not the true ye old goblin green. That would be like the old Citadel screw top, you know? I think I was explaining this when I was first painting the Rangers, how on the test model I did the highlighting then the wash, which I didn't do for the next models because I thought it would look better to do the wash then the highlighting, and that was the right move. And the case will be the same with the crossbows. And because the light units have a lot less metallics and more browns, we don't use the same armor wash that the other ones have been getting. We've been using Army Painter Strong Tone. The classic, the iconic. Back before Army Painter's paints were actually good. And they're like first generation of paints. They weren't really that well regarded. And I did use some of them and found them pretty mediocre, except for their washes. Their wash, or like the tone series, has been great. Apparently the formula is a bit changed now. I don't know if the most recent bottle I have is that new formula or not. Maybe it is. It does seem a little goopier than what I remember from when I first started using it. Now, of course, Army Painter has like a brand new line of paints out called the War. I think it's the War Paints. Now it seems like their line of paint is actual, like, proper competition for the market. Oh, I only watched one. I watched Vince Venturella's review of them. Those aren't the words he said about it, but that's the general gist I got. Looks like there's a quick area I could tidy up on this one with the brown, actually. Right here. Alright, now my body is telling me that I can just quickly add a coat of white to the white bits of cloth, and then I should wrap up the stream. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh no, I forgot to store this almost empty white paint upside down, so it's maybe a bit tricky to get some paint out of it. Oh, there's a bit in the nozzle there. Let's just scoop that up. Don't need to scoop all of it up though. Remembering to store it upside down this time. Hello, Justin. The painting is going well. You know, it's morning stream, so the coffee poop's about to kick in, so you're just catching the last probably 5 minutes of painting or so. How's your Thursday going? worry about doing some sort of highlight onto these white sections later. They'll definitely need they'll probably need a second coat of white anyway, so we'll just focus on doing just one basic coat for now. The white pant's gonna stand out a bit. Well, maybe I'll change my mind later. But I mean, like, part of me, I was like, well, it's kind of like the white stocking look that soldiers in the, not 17th century, 18th and maybe not 19th century, mostly 18th century, like Napoleonic warfare, they had white pants. Depending on the army. The British redcoats, they had white stockings. Looks like this guy just has the white pants. The others have white pants and some white sleeves. Yes, that's right, Ghetto Jet Racing. Those are the appropriate emojis. The start of the stream, it's the coffee cup emoji with the paintbrush emoji, and at the end of the stream, it's what you said. And just a bit showing at the elbow here. Yeah, man, I'm used to painting sleeves that are like complicated in the sense they got the like kind of poofy Landsknecht mercenary look with the stripes or whatever. This is a different kind of complicated. It's like just a bunch of layers that are kind of hard to decide what color to paint. But you know, it's always good to switch things up. Yeah, I think that white will pop nicely on the unit. Okay, this is the last one that needs some white. So, if you have anything that you want to throw into the chat or any donations you want acknowledged before the stream's done, now's your chance. Yeah, Robert, you made it just in time to see a bit of WAP. Welcome. I'm sorry you won't get to see... Oh, I mean, I don't know if you've been watching the whole stream so far. But I know how much you appreciate the WAP. I think when I painted the test Mercenary Crossbow, I didn't have the base coat of gray. I just put on a couple layers of white and then shaded it with contrast paint Apothecary white. The only reason these have the gray base coat is because one of my painting sessions yesterday, I mixed up this gray for something else and there was some leftover. So I just figured I could base coat these with gray to give myself an easier time later. Alright. These base coats are pretty much done on these other than the metallics, so probably the next step will be brown wash, quick highlights, metallics, just a little selective wash on those, and then they're done. That'll all be happening off stream, because I can power through it pretty quickly. But there'll be more crossbows to paint later. So yeah, I haven't decided when the next stream will be yet. At the earliest, it would be like tomorrow morning. I need to figure out what's going on this weekend in the meat space, and we'll then I'll figure out when to stream. I think I am gonna like be keeping up, as I've been explaining this week, of like doing more streams more casually. Maybe we won't do like as many next week as we did this week. I'll have to, like I said earlier, I'll have to take a step back and look at the old analytics and make a decision. I don't make too many decisions based off analytics. If you look at the lack of consistency on my channel, obviously I don't do that, but I still look at them sometimes. Alright, well, thanks for coming to this chill morning stream, everybody. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for checking out all my 100 Kingdoms work this week, and I will see you again soon for another stream.